So we have a slight problem in the Lego city. Recently, I went to Target and I bought this Lego set right here. This is the modular building Jazz Club, and that's not a problem. If anything, that's a good problem to have. But the thing is that we already have a Jazz Club over here. Now, with that second copy, I had a couple of options in mind that I wanted to try with it. We could either combine it with the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse deli. We could create a rebrickable model out of it, or we could go ahead and just disassemble it entirely and add it to the parts inventory and then make custom stuff with it along the way. And the problem with those options there is that the corner deli is obviously a corner, and the rebrickable modular that I was looking at is also a corner. I'll put a picture on the screen for you to check that out. I think it looks great, and that is by far my favorite one that I've seen of the Jazz Club. And I don't want to take this and just add on to my existing Jazz Club. I want to make something different with it. And so the problem is that we do not have any available corners. So that's great. I do technically have 2 corner spots right here for the town hall, but I want to make that a double corner. So that is on the never-ending to-do list. But all of the other corners are taken. We have one here. That's taken. That's taken. That's taken. That's taken. Taken. And that won't fit a building, I don't think, because of the curve. So that is all of the corner spots. And so in today's video, we are going to be fixing that. We're not going to be building this in today's video. We are going to save that for another video. But in today's video, we're going to be going through the city and figuring out the best spot to add a spot where we could add more corners. So I'm thinking we could add a road somewhere, either going that way, or possibly right through the middle here. We can find a spot where we can add a road, and then subsequently we can also add spots for corners on either side of that street. And so with that in mind, there's a couple of options in which we can do this. The first is to add a road cutting through this block right here. So then it would be the town hall double corner here. We would have something here, and then we could, let's say this is a corner, and then this would be a corner build. This would be a road right here. And then this would start the other corners, and then we could just work our way down from there. So this would be a street right here, and then we could have 4 more corners here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Even if 2 of them are full base plate ones, and then 2 of them are little half base plate ones like the corner deli and stuff like that. That is definitely an option. I don't know how that's going to look here with the parking lot and then also with the other buildings on the other side, but that is definitely an option. Option number 2 is to add a road through here to the edge of the table. Now, we could move the Daily Bugle down, we can move these buildings around and also this open space around as needed. That could definitely work, except for the small caveat that I want to add skyscrapers to the back here. So the models that I had in mind for the Jazz Club are not going to be nearly as tall as the Daily Bugle, and I want them to, at the very least, be taller than these other buildings in the front, or I guess the more foreground parts of the city, so then that way it actually has some depth to it, and there's different layers. So this is unfortunately out, but taking that idea where we add a road to cut through the edge of the table, that leaves me with this spot here. Now, not necessarily this spot, but this block here. So what we could do is we could add a gap in the median, so then that way cars could turn either way, and then we can put a road cutting through here to the edge of the table, and then we can also add that corner in. And I think this is probably the best spot of the 3. It is the least intrusive spot. That means we don't have to rip up both sides of the street here, so we don't have to rip up the green base plates there and then also disrupt the other buildings as well. It would just be these here. So this is my prime candidate for where we're going to be doing this today. So I'm going to first take out these buildings here, and then we can see what we're working with, and then we can figure out the best spot for the road, and we can take it from there. All right, so this is what we're working with. I do have the buildings rather precariously placed up here, but just ignore that for the time being. And so with this here, I'm going to leave the 2 corners on either end here, just because I want to keep the corners there, and I think that I like where they're at right now. So that is not going to change. But so we need to first figure all of this space out here. I need to figure out if I want to have a full base plate here and then a road and then a base plate and a half, or if I want to kind of move that. I have 16 studs of width for that road, and I just have to figure out where exactly I want it. It's really going to only go in one of 4 places. It's either here, 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 or here, because I need at least 16 studs to round out a corner on this side or on that side. So that's where I'm at right now. I need to just figure that out. And if you guys are wondering what the heck all this brick is for, this is a essentially modified Mills plate. This is a 48 by 48 plate because all of the track is on 48 by 48s, and that just makes assembling train track a lot easier. Like you can see, this curve is on a 48 by 48, so you just put them all next to each other, and then that kind of fills out the outer ring of the city. And then instead of connecting the buildings to the train track, in case I wanted to do something exactly like this, I have it resting on a layer of brick, because the layer having a brick and then a plate on top, which is a standard Mills plate, is the same height as a brick and then a base plate on top of that. And then, so as you can see, this all lines up here, and that all looks pretty good. So I'm going to have to take out some of this brick, but that's totally fine. I knew I was going to have to do that. So I am going to get to work on this, mostly just picking where I want this to go. And then we can take it from there, and hopefully this will start to shape up nicely. And I'm also going to move these 2 out of the way as well, because knowing my luck, one of these is going to fall, and I do not want to be rebuilding these. It's been a pretty long day already. So I'm going to move those first, and then I'll worry about this section here. All right, so tentatively, this is what I want to do. I want to put this road right here, and then that leaves 1 base plate on this side here, which is our left. And then if you're looking at it from the front of the city, it is going to be on the right, and then a base plate and a half over here. Now, the reason for this is that I just looked at that rebrickable model, and I'm leaning towards that. I think I mentioned that in the beginning of the video. I don't really remember. Again, it's been a pretty long day, but the building itself, I looked at the measurements of where the Technic bricks are and also how far the building juts out from that. And I think the right side of the building would match up to the Palace Cinema better than the left side would match up to the Tudor Corner. Again, I don't have the set built yet, so we might build this entire thing and then realize that we made all this wrong. Or not wrong, just not to the best of the situation that we have. So this is kind of what I'm thinking here. So then we can put that post office here, and then we can add a full building here and then a half base plate here. And what I was thinking of doing was actually keeping the Holiday Main Street set next to the Tudor Corner. I liked that here. I thought it looked pretty good. And then we could also take this little deli here. This was the Spider-Verse one, and we can add that here. Obviously, it would get beefed up, and it would have a lot more detail and a lot more mass to it as well. I don't know how it would look to have a dark red building across the street from another dark red building. That I haven't gotten that far yet. I don't know how that's going to go, but we can definitely play around with this. And then once that new modular comes out in January 1st, I will probably be redoing some of the layout anyways, just because I want to see how that set compares to all of the official sets that I have, which is almost all of them actually. So that is going to be a pretty interesting thing to go about and do. But for the meantime, we don't have that set yet. It is still November, so we are going to have to wait on that and just kind of make do in the meantime. So I'm leaning towards putting the post office here. The rebrickable model is going to go here, and then the post office, not the post office, the Holiday Main Street set. I can't talk today. The Holiday Main Street set is going to go back here, so that's good. Then all of this doesn't need to be changed. It's just these 2 base plates here that obviously need the building and then need to add the road and stuff like that. So I am going to get started on this. I'm going to add the road in. I'm going to add the crossing, and I'm also going to get rid of this green space in the back here, and then we can just kind of continue that through like all of this here. Now, does it make sense to have a road here and then have a road here and then have a road here? No. In terms of like actual city planning, I'm going to say no. It doesn't really make sense to have 3 spots across the train track in such a short span. So I'm not really worried about it. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I think this is going to look good anyways. So I'm going to get started on it, and I'll show you guys how it starts to shape up. All right, so I have gone through and done most of the base construction for this, actually. This is starting to shape up really nicely. I've done this dozens and dozens of times now, so it's pretty simple, but basically the road plates are all just sitting on plate. As you can kind of start to see under there, it's just a layer of plate. I usually just put it in the corners, and then for the 16 by 16s, I put an additional thing in the middle as well. And then that is pretty much that. And then as you can see, I also add in the sidewalk extensions here, the 2-stud wide plate. And then I just connect it with the tiles. And then that is all good to go. This is going to be the deli. So let me go ahead and grab that for you. And so this is probably going to sit this way. I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the sign is going to be backwards when you're viewing it this way, which is how you'd see it most of the time. But we'll make it work. We'll find a way to get that in there. But for now, this is just going to sit there as a reminder. Or we can go ahead and make something different and custom that will go here. So that is just a placeholder for the time being until we get all of that sorted. But pretty happy with the base construction of it here. I do still need to make the crossing, but that won't take long. I've also done that a number of times as well. It's pretty simple. It's just a plate, some 4x plate going down the middle, and then light gray tile, and then the ramps, and then 1x8 tiles on the outside. And then that is pretty much it. So I'm also probably not going to add a base plate here just because the Jazz Club set comes with a base plate. I'm just going to build the rebrickable model on that base plate and then just put it here. So I might put a base plate for just to fill it in, but I'm not really going to worry about it or add all the tiles and stuff like that. It's not really worth it. So with that, I am going to add the crossing in. I'll show you guys what that looks like, and then we can start to add these 2 buildings back to the city. Because if you remember, we had the 3 of them lined up here, and we put this one back. So the other 2 still need to find a home. All right, so the train crossing is now in. It's fairly simple construction, and it didn't take that long, which is good. And so the ramps are in now, which is all good as well. And I did fix up this wall a little bit. I do just need to add a pair of 1x1 bricks on here and then add some tiles to finish the rest of this off. But for the meantime, that is fine. It's not my main concern. And then over here, we have the open base plate, obviously, for the rebrickable model. And then on the other side of the street, I just filled in the tiles a little bit more, and I also did the same over here. And that is pretty much it. The road is now in. I'm not going to add a crossing here. I don't think I mentioned this yet, but I'm not going to do a crossing through here and through here just because I don't think it needs a crossing here, here, and there. I think one on the ends is fine, and then it will obviously need one here for people to get from this sidewalk to that one. But I don't think they need to get to the middle on that side, so not really worried about it. I am going to have to rip up the median, though, and add in the corners on it to make it look like that end right there. And then we'll add that in, and then that will be all good to go as well. And so that's going to wrap up this area, but we do still have to place those 2 modular buildings, the bookshop and the small town store there. So we're going to need to place those and find a home for them. So let me rip up the median really quick. I'll fix that up, and I'll show you guys what that looks like, and then we can go ahead and place those 2 buildings. And so the median is now fixed up. It's all looking pretty good. I did add the foliage back as well, so that's all good. And I might need to recenter the trees here. Definitely here. I don't know about here, though. This looks kind of all right, actually. But I'll worry about that later. But for now, this is all good to go. So I'm very happy with this. This is now ready for that corner modular building. So that is extremely exciting. And so now we just have to find a home for these 2. I don't know where they're going to go. I have a couple of ideas. I've been working on this for a little bit. And so I have a couple of ideas of where these could go. I'm thinking, I really liked how in the old layout we had the brick bank and then the bookshop was next to it on that side. So I think maybe taking the bank and putting it where the Emporium is, and then putting the Grand Emporium here, and then putting the bookshop there. And then either moving the pet shop down or putting it here, something like that. I don't want to move every building in today's video, but when you move one, it ends up being a domino effect, as I'm sure some of you guys know. So this is going to be fun. So I am just going to have to get started and hopefully find something that works without moving everything in the layout. All right, so very tentatively, this is what I came up with. So I actually didn't end up swapping the bank and the Grand Emporium, but let me run you through my thoughts really quick, and I'll show you kind of what I'm thinking and how my thought process worked. And so to start, over here, as you can see next to the Jazz Club is now the small town store. I had decided to move the supermarket, and we'll see where that went in just a second, but I moved the pizza shop and the townhouse down closer to the town hall, which left an open spot here for the small town store. And I think the varying height here looks pretty good. I don't know if it's going to stay here, but I do think that this spot is not a bad one. So I'm going to leave it like this for now. I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video, but I'm going to sleep on this because it's kind of late now. So I'm going to leave this how it is, and I'm going to sleep on it, and then we can reassess this at some point tomorrow, which for you guys will just be in a couple of seconds after this clip is done. But for me, it'll be the next day, and then hopefully I'll have a clearer head and things will make a little bit more sense. Now, the supermarket was right here, but it ended up all the way back there. And I'll show you guys what that looks like in just a second, but I want to kind of show you the rest of the buildings that had gotten moved. And so I actually took the old post office that was here, the one that was under construction, and I replaced it with the building that was right there because I put the bookshop there. I actually think that looks really good next to the bank. Let me start to walk around and show you guys that. I think that looks like a pretty good combination between the two there. It's not a perfect combination, but I think it works well enough. And I do obviously have to go and fix the sidewalks. I just wanted to keep it open in case I wanted to swap the buildings again. But the bookshop looks pretty good here. And then I moved this building that was here down. And I think that all looks pretty good next to each other. I'm going to have to redo this blue side, I think. But other than that, the building's a work in progress anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then the rest of this is pretty much the same. So this works for me. I think this is pretty nice. And then this spot is obviously still open. And then coming over here, as you can see, the crane is kind of in the way, but the supermarket is now over here. And while it is hard to get some decent angles of it because of these buildings here, I think that this looks pretty good. I like the varying heights between the corner garage, the Maersk Blue building, and also the Sanctum here. I think that all looks pretty good, and it also helps frame that chimney nicely that we worked on recently as well. And then coming over this way, you can see that the corner garage is also framed nicely as well. This side of the garage kind of stumped me for a little bit because of the garage itself jutting out so much, and then the actual building itself for the dark oranges is so far back. So having this gray wall here, I think actually is an advantage, and I think that looks pretty good. And then the only thing I don't love about this is that there's a lot of brown here. So you can see all the brown candlesticks here, and then the brown 2x2 bricks on the Maersk Blue building, but other than that, I think it's fine. And I don't really need to show this all that often, especially to myself. And I don't even think the brown is that bad on its own. So I'm going to leave it like this, at least for tonight. And then I'll come back in the morning or whenever I can, and I will check this out. But I think this looks pretty good. And so overall, I am pretty happy with it. That is pretty much all of the changes that I made, except for this building here. This is the old post office, which is now over here. I don't know if it's going to stay here or if I'm going to part it out, but it is an open spot, and so I just put that base plate there for the time being. But now that is everything that we have moved, which is actually not that much considering all of the other buildings around here. And so I think we did pretty good, all things considered. So now I'm starting to make my way back around so you guys can get a little bit of a better view here, because there are not a lot of open base plates left. And so we are filling up all of these base plates really, really quickly, but that just means that we are building a lot of stuff, which is always a good thing. All right, so it is now the next day, and I've thought about it for a little bit, and there's actually a lot of this that I like, and there's a little bit that I'm still unsure about. So I'm going to start with what I like first, and then we can kind of work our way around. And so coming over this way, I do actually really like this street here. I think this looks fantastic with the bookshop next to the bank. I never tried it in this configuration before, but really happy with how this turned out, actually. And I like the connection right here. I think that looks really good. And then this we're going to have to actually finish because I ran out of pieces, and I also ran out of the 1x2 tiles that make up the facade there. So I will probably have to get a few more of them. And then this road will pretty much be all good to go, except for this once the rebrickable model goes in. But I really like all this. This is good. And then the same goes for over here with the supermarket. I think this is really nice. Yes, you can't see the facade, unfortunately, anymore. You have to come all the way around to the back of the city to see it. But I do think that this is good, and the back of the model looks good as well. And so I don't mind seeing it from that side. And I think also the gray, there is a nice break between the corner garage and everything else. And I actually really like this. So this is definitely going to stay here. I think that configuration looks really good. And I like the gray wall there next to the actual garage portion itself. I think that's good. This here, I don't really care for here, but it's just a placeholder for the time being, so I'm not really worried about it. And so I'm just going to leave it there until we either make the model a new type of store, because that was originally going to be a post office. Like you can see the box out front, but now that's not really needed. So I can either redo this and make it a different store or just disassemble it entirely. So we have time to figure that out. Obviously, we don't have to do that in today's video. And I believe the only other change was over here, which was to the small town store and then also my pizza shop and townhouse here. Now, this is the one thing that I'm actually unsure about. And so I like it in theory, but I don't know how it actually looks here. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If this is something that you want to see stay here. I like the mock and I like having it closer to the entrance of the room here so I can actually see it when I first walk in instead of having to go up like this in order to see it where it used to be over there. So I do like that idea, and I do like the buildings next to it, but it is a little short. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't want to add a third floor. I want it to stay at just the 2 levels, and so I will probably end up keeping it here, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. This is the only one that I didn't finalize the sidewalk on like you saw in all the other buildings. The sidewalk looks much better now, and I went ahead and I fixed all that up. And so this is my one question right here, but I'm probably going to just add this to the city here, and then worst case, we can always move it later on. I think that's totally cool. And so with that, there was actually one other thing that I would need to do to the building if I were to keep it here. And so if you guys remember in a video a couple of months ago, at this point, I had to move the entire building back 1 stud on the base plate in order for it to line up better with the buildings that were over there at the time, which was the bookshop and the Holiday Main Street. But now that it's over here, I think I need to move it back up 1 stud again, so then it is in line better with these 2 buildings here, and then we have a nice little differentiation here between the depths on the sidewalk. And so if I move this back to have all the base plates in line with each other, this side looks fine, as you can see, but this side does not. I really don't like that, and so I want to move the whole thing up 1, and then I think that just looks so much better. This looks fine as it is, and then that looks so much better. So we're also going to need to fix this up as well, because this white wall on the side here does not look that great. I had ran out of tan bricks when I was making this, so I had to kind of compromise there and make do. But I really, really like this, and I think this is looking good. And so let me go ahead and just do that, and I'll show you guys what it looks like once it's properly integrated into the city. All right, so this is what it looks like properly integrated into the city. I just had to move the whole thing 1 stud forward on the base plate, which was not that hard to do. I just had to rip up a layer of tile and then shift it all forward, and I think it looks fine. You know, it looks the same as it did. It's just a lot cleaner now with the sidewalk edge, and I think it's a good look. It's just a little different for me, and so that's something that I have to get used to, and so I think this is pretty good. And so with that, all of the other buildings have been placed and integrated into the city already, and so that has everything taken care of. Everything is checked off of the to-do list, and that area is ready to go for the Jazz Club rebrickable model. And so with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, make sure to subscribe for more and turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss out when future videos come out, like when we go ahead and make that alternate model of the Jazz Club. But seriously, once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.